We cannot use templates anymore. Big X, flexible language pattern. In speaking, we need 88. What does it mean you need 88 in speaking? You keep running like Forrest Gump. Hello friends and fellow PTE test takers, this is Alex from Dream English. It's a new year. For many of you, it's a new start to settle in Australia or overseas. We've had recent new PTE academic exam changes and unfortunately, people are making new mistakes. And I'm just here taking a very rare holiday. We've actually had a lot of new material, new formats, new templates, new tools, new platform updates, new video courses that we're just wrapping up, which will be released soon. I've been getting a lot of, unfortunately, people who are failing the exam. The main reason they're failing is because they're still preparing the old way according to the old score requirements, and they're not aware of the new score requirements, or they don't know exactly where they need to focus more, where they can make more mistakes compared to before, and what are the questions they absolutely cannot mess up the way they used to be able to make mistakes before. We'll go through all of the things that you need to know, not only regarding the new PTE updates, the new 7 each and 8 each score requirements, but also the new score requirements from Department of Home Affairs in Australia related to superior English, competent English, and so on and so forth. Get cozy. Just put my phone down here and all right, let's do this. First of all, let's do a quick recap. If you're new to PTE, or even if you've taken the PTE exam in the past before August 2025, there's been some new changes that a lot of you may be aware of. So to summarize, there's been a couple new questions introduced in the speaking section, summarize group discussion, and another new question called respond to a situation, which is also part of the speaking section. Now, there's been a couple changes that are very minor, but they're actually having a positive impact on your score. Now, you're guaranteed to always get 2 summarized written text in your exam. The reason why I love the fact it's because writing summaries also give us reading points. And reading section is always a little bit tougher for people because it's a lot of academic vocabulary. There's also a matter of luck, whether you get unfamiliar topics. So the fact that I can get up to 10 or even 12% extra in reading, if I do the writing summaries the right way, this is great news. However, now it's guaranteed that you'll only have 1 essay. So again, great news. Essays are annoying, they're long. The next update, updated requirements from Department of Home Affairs for Australian immigration, Australian visa, is the fact that in the reading section, the questions still look the same, they still follow the same sequence. What we used to call reading and writing fill in the blanks, because they used to give us points in the reading section and also in the writing section. I always call them drop downs. So drop downs used to give you points in the writing before. Nowadays, they only give us points in reading. This is a good thing because these are quite hard for most people. Our writing score is now unaffected by our mistakes or our shortcomings in reading. It's fantastic. It's great news. Okay. And the last major update that there's been a new layer of human assessment added to the PTE exam. Specifically, this is affecting all of the speaking tasks and the writing section, as well as summarize spoken text in listening, where we have to type our answer, just like we would in the writing section. So what does that mean? In questions where, they're not binary, it's not like answer short questions where it's either right or wrong, but specifically the questions that 1,000 different students can answer in 1,000 different ways, like describe image in speaking, retell lecture, summarize group discussion, and respond to situation from the speaking section. Then, of course, we got the writing section, we got summarize written text and essay, and of course, we got the listening section, summarize spoken text. Okay, so again, these are questions where 100 students will do it in 100 different ways. There's a lot of ways to do it, and these are the questions where students in the past, including my students, we used to use templates. Okay, nowadays, unfortunately, we cannot use set standard templates anymore that you're going to repeat in every single question the same over and over and over and over and over again. Okay. Now, you might be worried like, oh, my English was just okay and I really used to rely on the templates. Now I cannot use the templates, so I really have to improve my English. That's not exactly true. And in the next chapter of this video, I will explain exactly how you can overcome all of these new changes and new additions. All right. So what you actually need to do is this. Imagine the examiner sitting there, okay, and it goes to your describe images. And you open the first, they listen to the first audio and they say, I have a very beautiful image on the screen in front of me. It's about percentage of population by image. They go to the next question. I have a very beautiful image in front of me. It's about people in UK and New Zealand in the year 2007 according to population distribution. They go to the next question. I have a very beautiful image in front of me. It's about, so if this human examiner is skipping through your answers quickly and they hear the same thing, the same wording, exactly the same every time, it's going to be very obvious for them that you're using the same template over and over and over again. And unfortunately, right away, they will mark like a big X. They will mark your question as inadequate and you will get a very low score. So what I should mention is that if you're not using the set repetitive template that you're repeating again and again and again, you will actually get the majority of your points from the computer. Okay, so when they say there's an extra layer of human assessment, it doesn't mean the human examiner is there to score your answer based on how many seconds you spoke, based on how many times you paused. This is still done by the computer. All right, the human examiner in PTE does not score your answer. So they're not going to mark you as 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, and so on. They just skip through the answers quickly. They go next, skip through the answers quickly, listen, skip, to make sure you're not repeating the same thing again and again and again. They either, like, imagine they either click yes or no. If they click yes, your answer gets processed by the computer and you get the score the same way as you used to in the past. However, if they click the X button or they click no, then automatically you bomb this question. You don't get any points for this question, or you get an extremely low score, right? It's very important to mention that a lot of the stuff I've been teaching on this channel about your oral fluency and about the content and so on, this is still very relevant because the computer is still the one giving you the points. Same thing applies in the writing section. Summarize written text, essay, and summarize spoken text. You cannot use some very obvious template. So we have to come up with unique essay structures and unique templates and unique formats. Now, this brings me to my next point. This is a term that we've coined. I've never heard anybody use it. So if you hear anybody else on YouTube use it, there's a lot of copycats, but we've coined the term flexible language pattern. Okay, so what is a flexible language pattern? We're not going to repeat the same words over and over and over again, but we're going to follow the exact same sequence of steps every time. Let's say I'm doing describe image, okay? And we know what are the things that the computer is looking for in describe image as an example. You got to mention the type of graph, you got to mention the title, you got to mention maybe any data points on the XY axes, if it's like kilograms or different years, and you got to describe some of the data points, whether the trend is increasing or decreasing or highest or lowest or how they compare to each other. And of course, we need a conclusion, right? So in the past, I also used to teach my students to follow the same template again and again and again. However, our template was actually relevant to the picture. It was not like nonsense, like, I have a very beautiful image, I have 25 seconds to prepare, 40 seconds to speak about this image, and yellow is my favorite color. Okay, so we did use a template, but the way we described it, it was always relevant to each new image that you might get. However, nowadays, we can't even do this anymore. So we've coined this term flexible language pattern, where we've created like 20 different variations of each sentence in the describe image pattern that students could use. And we even give them permission to kind of improvise and make their own modifications. But what we focus on, what we teach them in the class, and what I want you to try to do as well is come up with a structure or sequence of steps that works for you. So for example, if we're talking about describe image, first you might talk about what kind of graph it is. Is it a picture? Is it a bar graph, pie chart, map? Is it a process? Some headings on the XY axis, maybe some years, maybe some units like kilograms or degrees Celsius. And of course, you're going to describe maybe 2 or 3 points or whether the trend is increasing or decreasing and a conclusion. So I want you to rewatch this segment again. Take a piece of paper, okay, and write number 1, bar type, okay, or graph type or picture type. Number 2, title. Number 3, units. Number 4, XY axis. Number 5, maybe 2 or 3 data points. Number 6, conclusion, okay? Now, you're going to ask ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever AI tool you're using. It's going to give you different variations of that template that you can get used to. And basically, the wording in each of those 6 sentences is going to be different every time. One time you might say, the given graph is a bar graph and is clearly showing information about percentage of people in urban areas. Maybe the second graph you might be doing is like, you might say, the given pie chart represents data about percentage of people in urban areas. Then you get another image. The provided table on the screen is providing information about blah, 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 right? So every time you're going to do this, you're going to slightly alter and change the wording. You're not going to repeat the same thing again. Every time you're going to have slight different variations, but the sequence and the order of operations is going to be the same. So it's a formula like in math, right? If the same thing applies for retail lecture, the same thing applies for summarized group discussion, the same thing applies for your essay. And even for the essays, we make unique individual templates for students. They get used to it one time, and afterwards we burn it, we bury it, we delete it. We never share that same template with anybody again. And I recommend you, I urge you to do the same. All right, the second thing you need to do differently compared to before, given these new changes, is specifically in the summarized written text in the writing section. So in the past, myself inclusive, I used to teach my students that 70 to 90% of their content will come almost the same from the text. They had to find the important information, they had to add connectors, but most of the information we took exactly as it is, almost word for word from the original text. However, given the new human added layer of evaluation, you cannot copy and pretty much write the same thing. So nowadays in summarized written text, you have to rephrase, rewrite, paraphrase at least 50 to 60% of the key points that you're taking from the text. So what does that mean? Okay, you will still have this massive text. Of course, you still have to read it and understand it. You still have to extract what is the main idea, what are the different key points, what is the conclusion. And I recommend is to actually initially copy them exactly the same as you would in the past. For example, if you were my student. However, once you're done that, okay, I recommend that you maintain the same grammatical structure, because the original text by default is going to have correct grammar, right? Our grammar sometimes has mistakes. So I don't recommend like reading and rewriting on the spot right away, unless your level of English is like really, really high. I recommend you still follow the same steps. You copy it almost as it is with the connectors. Once you're done and you have at least 3-4 minutes left, and you know, there's different tricks and shortcuts how you can do this very quickly. Like you can literally do this in 5 minutes if you know exactly what to look for. What is important, what is not important. So once you have that answer copied almost word for word, then I recommend you start paraphrasing it, but maintaining the same grammatical structure. Like don't start swapping the sentences and the keywords around, and don't move the subject and the verb completely, and don't change the grammatical tenses too much. You're just going to paraphrase and rephrase some of the words that are simple. And of course, if some words are hard, and you know, like the word orange, there's no synonyms for the word orange, unless you say like something like citrus as an example, right? So this is what you need to do. You need to remember that in summarized written text, you cannot use templates ever. We've never used templates in summarized written text, even in the past. And of course, nowadays, you cannot copy the content almost the same word for word. So you have to rephrase at least 50 to 60% of that original text. And finally, the same goes without saying for summarized spoken text in the listening section. You cannot use like a very long template. In the past, I've seen people use like, 60-word templates and they just add 10 keywords. And if you have 2 summaries, they would oftentimes use the same template again, and again, they would add 10 keywords. So what we always taught our students in the class in the past is for summarized spoken text, most of the content has to come from your notes, from what you're listening in the audio. Yeah. We used to have a very short template. It used to be like 12 words, like something like the summary provides information about blah, 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 blah. Firstly, the speaker discussed, blah, 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 blah. In addition, they also mentioned in conclusion, So again, this is not actually the template that we used to use, but it's very similar. So we used to do it typically in 4 sentences, describe the main topic, describe 2 key ideas, and have a conclusion. Now, where most people go wrong is they're aware of these new questions, maybe they're aware of some of these new changes. However, the time they spend on each question and the time they're dedicating to each different section and the tasks that they're practicing and the quantity of questions they're practicing, they're still doing it the same way as per the old videos and the old advice and the old PTE score. So if you're planning to immigrate to Australia, check this table right here, okay? And you can also see the link. We have a detailed blog post about it on our website. So these are the updated Department of Home Affairs score requirements. If you recall in the past in PTE, 90 is the maximum score. If you got 79, 79, 79, 79 in speaking, writing, reading, and listening, or above 79, that used to be the 8 band equivalent, or IELTS 8 equivalent, or 8 each, whatever you want to call it. If we needed 7 each, or, 7 in IELTS, we used to need 65, 65, 65, 65. If we needed IELTS 6 equivalent or 6 each, we used to need 50, 50, 50, 50. Now, based on your score requirements, okay, we got here superior English, so which used to be 79, proficient, former 65, competent 50, vocational 36. Not a lot of people need the functional, so I will skip it for the purpose of this video. And nowadays, the scores that we need have been shifted. So the requirements for a reading and listening section are lower compared to before, and the requirements for speaking and writing are higher compared to before. So let me ask you this question. Wouldn't it be logical then that we focus more on the speaking and writing and we don't focus as much on reading and listening nowadays compared to before? It seems very obvious, but the fact is that now, like 60% of your time should be spent practicing the speaking and the writing section. You have very little room to make mistakes there, okay? And if we look at the score here specifically, for 79 equivalent, for 8 each equivalent, according to the new requirements, in speaking, we need 88, okay? What does it mean you need 88 in speaking? That means you have almost no room to make mistakes. Now, let me be very clear. You can make mistakes in the content, okay? So in read aloud, if you're not reading all the words perfectly, in repeat sentences, if you can't remember all of the words perfectly in sequence exactly word for word, or in answer short questions, you get a couple answers wrong, this will not affect your speaking score, okay? This will affect the content, which usually goes to the listening, but it will not affect your speaking score so much. The number one most important thing for your speaking score is your oral fluency. And again, we have tons of videos about oral fluency in PTE. Even if they're older videos, it's still relevant. When you're doing describe image or your read aloud or repeat sentence or retell lecture, any question in speaking, you should be talking like a machine gun, like there should be no pauses, no hesitations. I don't care if your wife calls you that dinner's ready. I don't care if your boss is ringing you that the system is crashing, you need to come into the office. If you're practicing describe image in the platform and, I don't care what happens from the start to the end of that question, you don't stop talking. You keep running like Forrest Gump. I'm sure a video editor is going to add it somewhere in here. So in other words, you should not have any pauses, hesitations. You make a grammar mistake, you make a content mistake, you misread, you mispronounce, you always have to keep going. All right? Now, wait. I need to crash this video for 10 seconds to ask you a massive favor. I'm not asking you to buy our coaching, to buy our classes, to buy anything, but if you could take 5 seconds right now to like this video, subscribe. I'm waiting. Please do it right now. And leave a comment either with something valuable that you learned so far in this clip or some question that you'd like us to answer and address in our next videos. It would mean the absolute world to me. It really helps our channel, keeps our team motivated, and it gives me an idea of what to cover for you in our next set of videos. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And now let's get back to the video. Listening fill in the blanks, it's a little bit unpredictable. Listening fill in the blanks, you might get 1 or 2 hard words, or you might get an accent that's very difficult. But if you got 2 questions, which is the standard, and each question is usually going to have 5 words, meaning on average in listening fill in the blanks, you're going to get about 10 words in total. You can make maximum 1 mistake per question. If you're looking for the old 79 equivalent or the 8 band, or you're looking for 85 in your writing, you can make maximum 1 mistake per question, but not more than that. Okay? Summarize spoken text and listening. Okay? Again, if you're practicing in the right way, if you have somebody checking your grammar, giving you advice how to structure your sentences, typically it's not that hard. And for this, we have a lot of repeated exam questions that once students actually read through the contents of each summary, when they hear the same question in the exam, it's much easier for them because they've already checked how to spell the difficult words, like Mary Mellon, Amory Lovins, Berlin Wall. There's so many different keywords that are difficult to spell, like Scott F. Fitzgerald. Unless you're American or Canadian or British, you don't know how to spell Scott F. Fitzgerald. So names are quite important. So if you haven't gone through our content and you're not confident in your spelling and you make spelling mistakes there, I don't know what's going to happen to your score. But if you're practicing the right materials and you're checking the grammar properly, it's very easy to get perfect points in summarized spoken text. Now, right from dictation and listening, there are 0 excuses for you to mess up, okay? Dictations are typically always repeated. Every one of my students, and And I'm actually going to ask our video editor to attach a screenshot. This is literally from my student yesterday who passed the test. She was freaking out that she failed her reading section. She actually just passed it. So I was very happy for her. And you can see here, she says all of her dictations were repeated from our materials, specifically from the prediction file. So for dictations, there's no excuse. It's something you need to practice every day. I will not accept any excuses whatsoever that you failed the test because of your dictations. And of course, for the essay, you need to use a unique template. Anytime you take the exam, you have to create a new template. I've also made a video a while ago about how to generate your own unique template so that there's no excuse. Don't leave me comments on this video. Say, Alex, please share your writing template with me. I won't do this. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm not nice and I don't want to help you. I'm saying this because I don't want all my other students to fail. Because if I start giving you the template that I've made for my students, they're going to fail and you're going to fail because it's going to get caught for plagiarism. But you have to be very careful to save enough time to check your spelling, okay? You're creating your own unique template that already has the academic structure words in there. The ideas and the examples you add in there by yourself actually can be quite simple words. You don't need to give some very sophisticated, fancy academic words. For your ideas and examples, use simple words. Again, I like to use this expression, kiss, or as Mike Tyson would say, kiss. Jokes aside, keep it stupid simple. If your spelling is bad, your grammar is bad, keep it stupid simple. You're better to have simple words spelled correctly than a bunch of fancy words out of which 25% of them are misspelled. And finally, thank God the listening and reading is lower. Am I right? Everybody used to fail the listening section primarily because of repeat sentences. You gotta have enough words in sequence. They don't care if you get many words, but in broken sequence. If you get fewer words, but in a row, okay, without additions, insertions, omissions, and so on and so forth, meaning you're not adding words, skipping words, you're not missing S or ED or ING, you're getting at least 5, 6, 7 words in a row, okay? This will give you plenty of content in listening. And finally, the reading section used to be one of the hardest for people that didn't study in English, they didn't do their master's or PhD in English, they don't read in English every day. When you encounter those academic words, it's very difficult. So the fact that the reading section is only 69 now for superior English, this is great news. In other words, you can make almost 20 mistakes between your reading section, your summarized written text content, which you remember I said 15 minutes ago also gives you points in the reading section. Yep. And of course, the questions from listening that also give us points in reading. Specifically, we got highlight correct summary and we got highlight incorrect words. So between all of those, you can make up to 20 mistakes total and you can still score superior in your reading in PTE. Like, this is fantastic news. So to give you some context here, in the past, when we used to teach our classes, we used to spend almost 50% of our time just teaching people the reading section. Nowadays, the reading section, we're spending less than 15% of our time in class. The writing section, we used to teach in like a couple of hours. Now we're actually, taking 2 days. So basically, we've increased it from 10-15% of our time to almost 30% of our time. And the listening and reading, we focus on much less. But again, even for 7 each equivalent, speaking has to be 76, writing has to be 69, and reading and listening, 58, 59. Okay? And the same thing goes for your competent English, which is the form of 50 each. But here you see the gap is not as extreme. You basically need to score around 15 each section. So I would say this is very similar, but the new Department of Home Affairs changes are mostly affecting people that need IELTS 7 or IELTS 8 equivalent. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. One last thing before you go, okay? By the time this video is live, we will be releasing a lot of the new stuff that we've been working on. We redid our platform. We got some amazing new features that I haven't seen anywhere in the PTE realm. We got a lot of AI integrations, template generators, score analysis, practice analysis, feedback that I personally give my students integrated into these AI tools that you almost have like a second Alex giving you feedback for your answers. We've updated a new video course with the new exam changes. We've got brand new teachers as well that we've trained that have been doing amazing. Had a lot of new students passing the test despite all of these chaotic updates. So if you need any support and you're tired of practicing by yourself and you want to shortcut your way to passing the test, instead of spending 6 months and 3-4 failed attempts, you just want to spend a month and a half, pass in one go, never hear the word PTE again, let us know. Or if you can't afford our classes, we have video course options which are much more affordable. And finally, if you can't even afford that, we have a platform that's even more affordable with all of these features. And finally, if you can't even afford that, we're going to have some free tiers of practice that you can get a limited practice amount every single day. And by the way, I'm not just saying this. Go on our YouTube videos, check the comments, look at all of these students getting 90, 90, 90, 88, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, just by watching our videos and taking some of our online courses or practicing on our platform without having to pay, a couple $100s for coaching. So this is Alex from Dream English and Visa Consultancy. I really appreciate your time, that you're still with me till the end of this video. It would mean the world to me if you like and subscribe. You don't need to buy anything from me. If you need help, you got all the links here in the description and the comments. But if not, just a like and subscribe and a comment with maybe what was the most useful thing you got away from this video would mean the world to me. And I'll see you in the next clip. Take care.